AskReddit. What's the quickest you've ever seen a new coworker get fired? A guy refusing to wear safety gear PPE on his first day. He flat out said no to the supervisor, who then fired him. He didn't even make it to the first coffee break. If he was that adamant about not wearing safety gear, it wasn't a good sign. Nope, just nope. I can't tell you how many times I've had some debris thump off my safety glasses or face shield at high velocity. So fast, you're actually blinking reacting after the actual thump. Not wearing PPE is a great way to lose eyeballs. I have a small farm. We occasionally rent a wood chipper to clear out the brush and trimmings and such. We hire one person a few times a year to help. Last time, I told him if he's within 10 feet of a chipper or a chainsaw, glasses and earplugs. Dude said he's fine doing the raking and whatever. My business partner was like, I don't get why you're so strict. He feeds a branch into the machine and instantly gets kickback that hits him square in the glasses hard enough to scratch them. He doesn't ask me questions about why I'm so strict anymore. I've met a few PPE deniers in my lifetime and I can never rack my brain as to why this is the hill they choose to die on. It's not even close to worth the risk. I knew a machinist who was notorious for not wearing safety glasses. One day I had something, non-metallic, eyelash or something, in my eye. He proudly let me know that he kept a strong magnet in the top of his toolbox to get metal splinters out of his eyes, and that I could borrow it too. He said he used it every few weeks, and that as handy as it was he couldn't understand why more people didn't have one. The thought of metal splinters in people's eyes is going to leave me internally screaming for days. Edit. If anyone else adds any more things that make this worse, I am going to start outwardly screaming too. A guy got hired at my job and did all sorts of no safety violations. The most egregious example was when I looked outside where the cardboard compactor was and he was inside of it stomping down the cardboard. Clearly super dangerous and a huge OSHA fine waiting to happen. There are numerous signs posted saying not to get inside. I've had co-workers nearly written up for just leaning too far into it. Our manager told him to never do that again and he more or less said he didn't give a shit and was gonna keep doing what he wanted. Shockingly, management wasn't sure what to do with that. He lasted a bit longer then disappeared. I'm actually not sure if he quit or was fired. He also was just gross, combative, a know-it-all and general pain in the ass, and made numerous disparaging remarks about women being overweight. I certainly hope he got shit-canned. Then disappeared. He did it again and somebody hit the start button. He's been recycled. Kid came in on his first day thinking he could boss everyone around since he just finished culinary school. Strike 1. Caught him later that day vaping in the prep area of the kitchen. Strike 2. He asked on his second day if he could leave for 30 minutes to make a drug deal. Needless to say, that was strike 3. What a loser. You don't ask your boss if you can leave work to make a drug deal. You tell your boss that you're leaving work to make a drug deal. Or cut him in as a downstream distributor. Now you're his boss. Back in the mid 1990s I had hired a guy for senior Unix systems administration role. It was made quite clear in the posted job description, the interview process, and on his first day that this role would be required to be on call a few nights per month on a rotating basis with the other Unix admins. The salary reflected that as well. This was a 6-figure position. He was issued a company laptop and a cell phone for his on-call work that could be done from home. As part of the onboarding process, our Unix lead admin wanted this guy to shadow him on his on-call evening so that he could see how processes differed in the off hours. It was his second day on the job. That evening, I happened to be working a bit late and the help desk calls me saying they've got an issue that needs to be escalated to the Unix team and asking if they've got the right number for the new guy because it's just ringing and going to a default voicemail mailbox. I tell them to call the lead admin to get him working on the issue and that I'll contact the new guy myself. I call. Same thing. Voicemail. Multiple times. I fish out his employment docs that are all still sitting on my desk and find his home phone number. I call and get about 3 words out of my mouth when he responds, "Why the fuck are you calling me at home?" and hangs up. A bit in disbelief, I look back at the paperwork and verify, yes, this is his phone number and try it again, thinking maybe he'd mistaken me for someone else. I receive a similar bit of vitriol and a hang up. I contact the lead admin and inform him he won't be having the new guy join him that night or any other. We immediately killed all of his system access and his door card, and HR was waiting for him at the reception area first thing in the morning. That reminds me of a guy I hired when I supervised a call center. We brought on several new people in a short time because of a new project. I told all of them that once it started, we'd be open on weekends. There would be a revolving schedule, so no one would have to work every weekend. I told them this in their initial phone interview and again in their in-person one. The first time I posted a schedule with weekends, one guy got really pissed. "You never said anything about working weekends." I assured him that I had, at least twice. Another phone rep backed me up and said I'd told everyone repeatedly. I started in March and heard that speech about 100 times. I didn't have a private office. Someone else chimed in to say they'd heard me say it to him personally. That dude didn't quit, but I wished he had the whole time he worked there. He was pissy toward me and the other folks who'd spoken up. Years ago when I was doing network operations, we got an alarm for a data center that had a problem with the sprinklers. We called someone to head into the office to work on the issue. After that we had to reach out to the facilities manager. As I am in Richmond, VA and the DC was in California, I was calling them at about 5 AM. My coworker called him, and when the guy picked up, VP level, he read my coworker the riot act and hung up. As I was the department arsehole, I was asked to call the VP back. I stopped him when he began to rant, and told him that I just needed to give him the message and then he could hang up. Me: "Your data center is flooding and water is pouring on the server racks." Him: "Holy shit." Me: "I have facilities on their way to the site and we are pulling the appliance list to notify the application owners." Him: "I'm in a car with a bunch of friends on the way to a football game." Once again, it is 5 AM their time, but California's traffic is legendary. Me: "Would you like me to call the CISO?" His boss: "Him: Yeah." Me: "Will do. Enjoy the game." He later contacted our department to apologize to the original caller and talked me up to my boss. Before we go further, please press the red subscribe button below if you're enjoying this so far. Worked at a place where you couldn't be colorblind because you were reading schematics and identifying connectors of varying different colors. There was hundreds of tiny connectors in one array. Somehow, by the grace of God, this guy got hired. Either they forgot to implement the CB test or he successfully guessed his way through it. He trains for a week and is put onto the line to build $20K cables for fucking missiles. His very first connector he spent all day on, soldering and connecting and signing the paperwork and the steps, gave it to QC for inspection. It was one of the most fucked up examples of a connector anyone had seen. Next day, guy admits he's colorblind and whether he can keep the job. He's let go because he cost the company $20K. The connector was put on display in HR to drive home the importance of sticking to hiring procedures. Hired my friend's sister as a hostess at our restaurant. She called off for her first shift 3 hours later telling me that she was having a tough period. 30 minutes into her dinner shift she started posting pics on Instagram of her being at a party in Canada. We live in NY. Fired her via Insta. Never even worked, then tried to claim unemployment, then had her father call me and try to threaten me into rehiring here. She was 34. "You hired Mona Lisa Saperstein." This guy shows up, the VP is gloating how great and brilliant he is, blah blah blah. First day, doesn't come in until 10 AM. Next day same deal, like working from 10-12 then leaving. Meanwhile they flew him on a business trip leaving Wednesday and supposed to come back Friday. At the last second he rebooked himself on a midnight flight. Meanwhile on the Friday flight back at the last second he was like, "Oh, I have to take a different flight," and he just disappeared. What Mr. Mysterious didn't realize is most of us used to work at his previous employer. Someone sent us a text, "Hey, I thought you hired blah blah blah. He's making copies right now." Turns out he was working 2 jobs. These are both science tech companies with not that strict NDAs, but you can't work at a potential competitor simultaneously. He was fired from both jobs. I worked with a guy who was working 2 different jobs in the same building. He would leave floor 5 for a while, head to floor 7 to get in some FaceTime, then back again. He got away with it for 7 months before he got caught. When I worked in data entry, there was a tricycle on our office floor, just added as a relaxed bit of fun by the managers, who are all very chill people. One of the girls that got hired around the same time as me would, instead of working, just ride the tricycle around the office all day, every day. When we all showed up in the morning, she wouldn't even log into her computer. She would just get right on the tricycle and ride around talking to people until she left to take her lunch break. The day she got fired, she had to be escorted out of the building because she was screaming about "you're targeting me unfairly lol." Orientation second day. He's to sit in a conference room and read through binders of important info. Our boss walks out and closes the door. It has a window with blinds open to see through. Going about our day, and the boss asks us why the conference door's locked and blinds closed. Nobody is sure, so they get security to open the door to see this fucking guy kicked back with the lights off asleep. He had closed the blinds and locked the door. Of course he was out there that day. I was at my job for like 3 years and I once slept through my alarm clock and didn't show up until 11 AM. We started at roughly 7. I am salary, but I thought for sure I was going to get written up or reprimanded. Not to sound self-congratulatory or anything, but I feel like I am a good worker and my performance reviews have all been very positive. It's just for context. I went right to my boss and apologized profusely. He cracked up, thought it was hilarious, and he told me he figured I either slept through my alarm or something happened to me. I didn't get in any trouble. He just told me not to make a habit of it, but he never let me live it down. I bought a new alarm clock right after work. Small family company that in my lifetime, 34 years, went from 3 to 80 employees. One woman has been there 30 years and almost feels like a family member. Her daughter struggled with mental issues in high school, and in therapy it came out that she had been sexually abused as a kid by an older kid. Others corroborated the story. Because it was never an official charge, that's the type of thing that doesn't show up on a background check. A few years pass, her daughter goes to college, meets a great guy, gets engaged, her life is going well. I hire a new warehouse worker. I'm doing his onboarding and bring him to the office for introductions. The mom's face drops. She pulls me aside. I had hired the abuser. I told him an unforeseen conflict had come up and I wouldn't contest unemployment. Those are the types of situations they don't really prepare you for in management. Did he figure out why when he saw the mother? Also, good on you. I know some managers who would have kept him. I worked on an IT help desk. It was me and another guy. He quit because there was no room for growth. They hired this guy who supposedly had 25 years of experience in IT. I was tasked with training this guy. He was an older guy and was so deaf he couldn't hear the phone ringing. I had to show him how to do the same things over and over again, like how to install a printer. I even made training documentation, but instead of reading that he would just ask me to show him. He was a high school football coach on the side and that's all he talked about. After a week I went to the boss and said this guy is useless to me. The boss sat with him for 2 hours at his desk and he was fired the next day. I felt bad the guy lost his job, but he was not absorbing any info and I was doing 2 jobs. It always sucks when people lose their job if they need it, but a guy with 25 years of IT experience that can't install a printer is either having a bunch of strokes and needs to go to the hospital, or is lying about having 25 years of IT experience. It definitely was not your responsibility to suffer on account of his inability to do the job he said he could do, regardless of why it was happening. Day 4 of orientation. I got hired onto a trucking company after CDL school. They had 5 days of orientation and it took place at their headquarters that was several states away. You could either have them fly you there or you could drive yourself and they would cover your expenses. Also, the company would put you up at a hotel, pay your food costs, and provide transportation to the headquarters. I didn't even think it was possible to get fired at orientation. All you have to do is show up and pretend to pay attention. This one guy drove himself there. I think he lived about 800 miles away. On the first day of orientation, he tells anyone who'll listen that he forgot to keep his receipts and he better get reimbursed. I think I'd rather eat the costs than announce to everyone how stupid I am. On the second day, he slept in and missed the shuttle and ended up driving himself. On the third day, he missed the shuttle, yet again, and was over an hour late. Worse than that, he fell asleep during orientation. I knew he was done for when the instructor angrily woke him up and asked for his full name. On day 4, he showed up on time but his fate was sealed. When I was at the hotel later that night having a cigarette, I saw him loading his stuff into his car. I asked him what happened and, yup, got canned. I can't say I blame them. I'll be the first to admit that trucking isn't the hardest job, but being on time, paying attention, and getting adequate rest are very big keys to success. They probably made the right move. I felt bad for the guy, though. He essentially drove 800 miles to get fired and then drove 800 miles back. That had to feel like a long trip. Worked at Best Buy and around 2010 we hired for the holiday season. I think it was his second day and I was organizing games on the bottom shelf, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, check this out," and bounced up and down. I started hearing a clapping noise. Like clap 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 clap. Literally no idea how, but his balls were making that clapping noise. This was at my face level too since I was kneeling down. Being a 20-year-old dude, part of me thought it was horrifying. The other hilarious in a what the fuck is this actually happening kinda way. But apparently he went around and did it to everyone and some girls reported him for sexual harassment and he was fired fairly quickly. I've tried to recreate it throughout my life but I have no idea how the guy did it. He was young. The clapping was so loud. Thanks for watching. Please press the like button if you enjoyed and the notification bell next to the subscribe button to never miss another video. Let me know your thoughts below. Bye.